The attack that changed everything. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with whispers of amusement and satisfaction. The Krell Dominion had finally launched its full-scale attack on Earth's colonies, and the outcome was exactly as expected: a massacre. The reports flooded in from the front lines. Billions of humans dead, cities reduced to dust. No survivors, no mercy. The Krell were brutal warriors, and they had conquered dozens of species before. Humans were just the next in line. Inside the council chamber, Supreme Chancellor Tyroth leaned back in his floating chair, his reptilian eyes gleaming. "It is done," he announced. "Earth's resistance is no more." A few other council members chuckled. It was always the same. A weaker species challenges the balance of power. The stronger force crushes them. Peace would follow, under the council's rule. But something strange happened. Earth didn't respond. Usually, after a planetary scale attack, species would send desperate messages, begging, screaming, pleading for surrender. Some even tried to negotiate their survival, offering resources, technology, or submission. But Earth, nothing. Not a single distress signal, not a single transmission. The humans had simply gone silent. At first, the council thought it was shock. Maybe the humans had been too broken, too devastated to even react. But as the hours passed, unease spread. One of the communication officers, a nervous-looking Zerithian, finally spoke. Supreme Chancellor," he said hesitantly. "We have been monitoring human frequencies, but there's nothing." Zeroth frowned. "What do you mean, nothing?" "Zero transmissions, not even civilian chatter. It's like they vanished." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. This was not normal. On the conquered human worlds, the Krell forces celebrated their victory. They set up fortresses in the ruins of human cities. Krell warlords claimed human planets as their own, already making plans to enslave the survivors. One of them, General Korath, stood atop a ruined skyscraper, looking over what was once the colony of New Terra. Smoke filled the sky. The battle had been too easy. He smirked, turning to his lieutenant. "These humans were weaker than we thought." The lieutenant nodded, but there was something odd in his expression. "Sir, have you noticed something strange?" Korath growled. "What?" The lieutenant hesitated, then whispered, "We captured thousands of prisoners in the first wave, but now they're gone." Korath's eyes narrowed. "Gone." The lieutenant swallowed. "Yes, sir. Not escaped. Not dead. Just missing." A cold chill crept down Korath's spine. He turned toward the dark horizon, where the human cities once stood. Something was wrong. Back in the council chamber, a transmission finally came in, from Earth itself. The entire chamber fell silent as the holographic screen flickered to life. A human figure appeared. He was standing in darkness, his face barely visible. No insignia, no uniform, just a shadowy figure. Then, in a calm, measured voice, he spoke 3 words. "You will regret this." Then the transmission cut out. For the first time, the Supreme Chancellor felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. Something was coming. Something the Council had never faced before. And they had no idea what it was. The storm before the storm. The silence from Earth was unnatural. It wasn't the silence of defeat. It was the silence of something waiting, watching, planning. The Galactic Council's usual arrogance had started to crack. The human transmission, just 3 words, "You will regret this," echoed in their minds. Supreme Chancellor Tyroth paced in his chamber, his claws clicking against the smooth obsidian floor. He had seen many conquered worlds, but never had a species responded like this. No panic, no cries for mercy. And now something was happening in the shadows. The first sign of trouble. The first sign came on the Outer Rim colonies. Krell forces were still celebrating their victory, reinforcing their new prisons, military outposts, and planetary defenses. But then, Out of nowhere, their supply lines stopped. No reinforcements, no shipments, no updates from command. At first, they assumed it was a technical glitch. But then, one of their fleet command stations, a massive orbital fortress above the captured colony of Valis 9, simply went dark. No alarms, no distress signals. It just ceased to exist. Krell warships were sent to investigate. They arrived to find nothing. Not wreckage, not debris. Nothing. It was as if the entire station, and every Krell soldier aboard, had been erased from reality. Fear spread among the Krell. For the first time, they realized something terrifying. Humans were not begging. They were hunting. Deep inside human space, while the Council remained confused, Earth's war machine had already begun moving. On Luna Base, deep within Earth's controlled space, the Terran High Command stood before a holographic war map. At the center of the room, a woman in a sleek, midnight black uniform studied the glowing projections. Admiral Cassandra Drake, the Supreme Commander of Earth's Black Fleet. A subordinate officer spoke nervously. "Ma'am, the enemy has no idea what's happening. Should we send a warning?" Drake didn't even look at him. She kept her eyes locked on the map, watching the shifting positions of Krell forces. "They attacked our people." Her voice was like cold steel. "There will be no warnings." She turned to another officer. "Is the Ghost Armada in position?" "Yes, Admiral. All units report readiness. They are awaiting your command." Drake allowed herself the smallest smirk. For centuries, the Galactic Council had believed humans were weak, disorganized, too primitive to be a real threat. But what they had never understood was this. Humanity had been preparing for war long before this war even began. Now, it was time to strike. The Krell's first nightmare begins. On the occupied world of Zeta 4, a former human colony now under Krell rule, General Korath sat in his war chamber, studying battle reports. The planet had been fully fortified. Armored walkers patrolled the streets, anti-air defenses lined the city walls, and Krell soldiers marched in endless drills. No one could break this fortress. Or so they thought. The attack didn't come from the sky. It didn't come from a fleet. It came from inside. The first explosion ripped through the Krell command barracks, killing dozens of officers in an instant. Then, communications failed, not just scrambled, but completely hacked, every Krell screen flashing the same message in blood-red text. "We are already here." Krell soldiers panicked, running for their weapons, only to realize that their armories had been sabotaged. Weapons refused to fire. Shields collapsed. And then, in the darkness, they came. Humans. Not an army. Not soldiers marching in formation. But shadows. Elite human operatives, striking with silent, brutal efficiency. They didn't fight wars like the Krell. They didn't charge in like beasts. They assassinated commanders in their sleep. They sabotaged power grids. They turned the Krell's own technology against them. By sunrise, the mighty Krell fortress had fallen, without a single human casualty. The bodies of Krell officers were found strung up along the city's central towers, their own war banners defiled beneath them. The message was clear. Earth had arrived, and there would be no survivors. The Council's desperation. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, a meeting was called in a state of absolute panic. The Krell warlords, once so arrogant, now demanded emergency reinforcements. Council leaders shouted over each other, trying to understand what was happening. "They are ghosts." A Krell ambassador roared, slamming his fist onto the table. "They are everywhere and nowhere. We have lost entire battalions without even seeing them." A frail, nervous council member trembled. What if we made a mistake? A deadly silence followed. Then, Supreme Chancellor Fadroff finally spoke. "No," he growled. His reptilian pupils narrowed into dangerous slits. "They are still human, and humans bleed." He leaned forward, Deploy the planet killer fleets. Erase Earth from existence before they erase us. The Council agreed, but they had no idea that, at that very moment, human spies were already inside their war rooms, and Earth had already seen their next move. The Battle of the Outer Rim. The Galactic Council had made its decision. Earth had to die. The planet killer fleets were mobilized. Massive armadas carrying weapons capable of turning planets to dust. They wouldn't just destroy Earth. They would erase humanity from history. But there was one problem. The moment the fleets launched, their coordinates were already known. Because the Council's war rooms had been compromised. The Council's fatal mistake. Supreme Chancellor Xyroth stood before the assembled admirals, his voice full of authority. Deploy every ship we have, he ordered. Burn Earth to the ground before they can retaliate. Admiral Rovar, a four-armed commander from the Jorvian Empire, saluted. It will be done, Chancellor. Their fleets roared to life. 10,000 warships, enough to wipe out an entire galactic sector. But as the armada surged forward, they never reached their destination. The Black Fleet awakens. Somewhere in deep space, beyond the edges of charted space, a fleet of massive, pitch-black warships drifted in the darkness. They had no transponders, no official registry. To the rest of the galaxy, they didn't exist. But now, they moved. And they moved with purpose. At the center of this fleet, aboard the Erebus-class dreadnought Nemesis, Admiral Cassandra Drake watched her holographic displays with cold, calculating eyes. The Council's fleets had launched their attack on Earth, which meant one thing. They had fallen into her trap. Are the ghost ships in position? She asked. A tactical officer nodded. Yes, Admiral. They have already infiltrated the enemy fleets. Drake gave the smallest smirk. The enemy thought they were the hunters, but they were already prey. The fall of the First Fleet. The Council's first attack force, a fleet of 2,000 warships, arrived in what they believed was an empty sector, a waypoint before their final approach to Earth. Instead, they found something waiting for them. The Ghost Armada, human stealth warships, invisible to scanners, unreadable by radar, materialized out of nowhere. Their weapons were already primed. Before the Council fleet could react, hell was unleashed. Planet-cracking dreadnoughts were torn apart in an instant. Flagships erupted into firestorms. Entire squadrons were reduced to debris before they even knew they were under attack. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Inside the command ship, Admiral Rovar watched in horror as his fleet was obliterated. We're under attack. Who is? Before he could finish, the holographic screen flickered. A single figure appeared, Admiral Cassandra Drake. Her gaze was cold, her voice steady and merciless. You thought we wouldn't see you coming, she said. Then the transmission cut, and the human warships finished the job. 2,000 enemy ships, destroyed in less than 7 minutes. The Second Fleet's fate. The Council had no idea what had happened to their First Fleet. By the time the second wave entered another sector, the Kashin Rift, they received an emergency transmission. It was garbled, full of static, but the message was clear. Turn back. The fleet's commander, Grand Marshal Velker, scoffed. Pathetic human tricks. Then his engine shut down. His weapons went offline. His shields collapsed. Before he could even issue an order, his fleet was ambushed from all sides. This time, the Black Fleet didn't even use conventional weapons. They hacked the enemy ships from the inside. Krell warships turned against each other, their own AI corrupted. Fighters refused to fire. Weapons self-destructed. Velker screamed in rage as his own flagship's guns turned inward and blasted his own bridge apart. In just 10 minutes, the Second Fleet ceased to exist. The Galactic Council's worst nightmare. Back in the Council chamber, panic had reached a breaking point. Where are our fleets? Someone shouted. No one is responding. The Supreme Chancellor slammed his fist onto the table. What is happening? A hologram activated. Once again, a human appeared. But this time, it wasn't a warning. It was a declaration. Admiral Cassandra Drake stood, arms behind her back, staring down at the council members like gods staring at ants. She spoke only one sentence. "Your war is already over." The transmission cut out, and the council finally understood. They had lost, and the real retaliation hadn't even begun yet. Earth's unleashed fury, the Galactic Council had finally realized the truth. Humanity was not losing this war. They were orchestrating it. The Council's fleets, once the most feared force in the galaxy, were vanishing like dust in the wind. The Krell warlords, who had been so eager to conquer, were now pleading for reinforcements. But it was too late. The storm was here, and Earth was about to unleash its fury. The first human invasion in galactic history. For thousands of years, wars in the galaxy had followed a simple pattern. The stronger force attacked. The weaker force either surrendered or was exterminated. No species had ever retaliated at this scale. Until now. In the darkness of space, a shadow loomed. A fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Terran Titan-class supercarriers. Massive warships, each one the size of a small moon, capable of carrying entire armies. And at the head of this monstrous fleet, the UNS Abyss, Earth's most advanced warship. Admiral Cassandra Drake stood on the Abyss's bridge, watching as her forces prepared for the first human invasion in galactic history. "Begin deployment," she ordered. Across the occupied human colonies, the sky turned black, because Earth's armies had arrived. The battle for New Terra. New Terra had been one of the first human colonies to fall to the Krell. The Krell had built fortresses over the ruins of its cities, believing it was theirs forever. They never expected what came next. The first strike wasn't an orbital bombardment. It was worse. In the dead of night, the shields of every Krell fortress failed simultaneously. Their automated defenses shut down. Then, in the silence, the sky cracked open. From above, tens of thousands of human drop pods rained down, piercing the ground like meteorites. The first human soldiers emerged. But they weren't ordinary soldiers. They were augments, genetically enhanced warriors, trained for total war. Faster, stronger, smarter. Their armor could withstand plasma fire. Their weapons could tear through Krell flesh like paper. And they fought with a level of brutality that no alien had ever seen. The Krell defenders tried to hold their ground, but it didn't matter. The human augments tore through their ranks like shadows in the night. Krell warlords screamed for reinforcements. None came, because every single Krell warship in orbit was already gone, destroyed, disabled, or hijacked by human operatives. By sunrise, New Terra was back under human control. The Krell, extinct. The fall of the Krell Empire. News of New Terra's fall spread like wildfire. For the first time in history, an empire that had conquered 100 worlds was now being eradicated. Panic spread through the Krell High Command. And then, Earth sent its final message. A transmission appeared on every Krell warlord's screen. Admiral Drake stood there, arms crossed, her eyes cold. "You wanted war," she said. "Now you will learn what war really is." At that moment, the Terran dreadnought fleet jumped into Krell space. Every single Krell homeworld came under siege. Their skies darkened. Their cities crumbled. And one by one, their planets fell. This was not war. This was a reckoning. The Council's last desperate move. In the heart of the galaxy, the remaining Galactic Council members gathered in panic. They had once ruled with absolute authority. Now, they were hunted. "Call for peace," one of them shouted. "We must negotiate." But the Supreme Chancellor Gaxiroth slammed his fist on the table. "No," he growled. "There will be no surrender." He turned to his last, most desperate weapon. The planet-killer superweapon. A machine capable of destroying entire solar systems. "If we cannot win," Gaxiroth snarled, Then we will take Earth with us. The Council gave the order. The superweapons core began charging. It would fire in 10 minutes. But then, every single alarm in the Council's chamber went off. A terrified officer stumbled into the room, his face pale. As Supreme Chancellor, the weapon. It's... Cyroth grabbed him. What? Speak. The officer swallowed. It's not responding. Cyroth's eyes widened. What? And then, a new transmission appeared. A human face looked back at them. Not a soldier. Not a general. A hacker. He grinned. Hey there. You guys didn't really think we'd let you fire that thing, did you? He waved sarcastically. Goodbye. And then the superweapon self-destructed, taking half the Council's fleet with it. The end of the war. With their fleets destroyed, their superweapon gone, and their strongest warriors dead, the Galactic Council collapsed. The few remaining members who survived surrendered. The war was over, and Earth had won. The Council's desperate mistake. The Galactic Council was finished. Their fleets were gone. Their armies were scattered. And now Earth ruled the battlefield. But there was one final desperate move the Council had left. A mistake that would seal their fate forever. The last refuge of the Council, far beyond the core worlds, in the depths of the Andros Nebula, a hidden fortress remained. Zeraxis Prime, the last bastion of the Galactic Council. This was where the few remaining Council leaders, warlords, and surviving admirals had fled. They had lost their fleets. They had lost their allies. But they still had one last secret weapon. Deep within Zeraxis Prime, beneath layers of security, lay the Omega Protocol Vault, a final contingency. Something so devastating, so forbidden, that it had been locked away for millennia. A genocide-class bioweapon. One vial was enough to wipe out an entire species in days. And now, they were going to use it on Earth. Earth's unseen hand. Supreme Chancellor Cyroth stood in the war chamber, his claws twitching. The humans have proven. Difficult, he admitted. But his voice was steady. No more battles. No more fleets. We will end them the old way. He gestured to the containment case. Inside, a single vial of shimmering liquid pulsed with dark energy. The Omega strain, he murmured. Once we release it, Earth will burn. The remaining Council members hesitated. This weapon had been outlawed for 10,000 years, but they had no other choice. They nodded. Cyroth reached for the case and froze. Every screen in the room flickered. Every security system shut down. And then, a slow, deliberate clap echoed through the chamber. Cyroth turned sharply. A human stood there. Not a soldier, not a general. A man in a black suit, casually leaning against the war table. He smirked. Wow, the man said, shaking his head. I knew you guys were cowards, but this... bioweapons. Really? Cyroth snarled. Who are you? The man stepped forward. No name, no rank, he said. Then he pulled out a small silver device from his pocket and held it up. You know what this is? Cyroth hissed, baring his fangs. It was a remote detonator. And suddenly, every council member in the room felt ice in their veins, because they knew what it meant. Earth hadn't just found them. Earth had already planted bombs inside their fortress. The man smiled. You lost this war the moment you attacked us. Then he pressed the button, and Zeraxis Prime erupted into fire. The Council falls. The last stronghold of the Galactic Council collapsed in a storm of explosions. Every hidden war factory, gone. Every stockpile of weapons, turned to ash. And the few remaining Council warlords who tried to flee. They found themselves trapped. Because waiting for them in orbit was the UNS Abyss, the flagship of the Black Fleet. Admiral Cassandra Drake watched as the enemy's final ships tried to escape. She nodded to her weapons officer. No survivors. The Abyss's main cannons roared to life, and in seconds, the last remnants of the Council were wiped from existence. The war is over. The Galactic Council was dead. The war was over. For the first time in history, humanity had proven itself as the strongest force in the galaxy. No one challenged Earth now. No one dared. But instead of conquering, instead of enslaving, Earth did something no one expected. They offered peace. The surviving alien races, terrified of human retaliation, expected cruelty. But instead, Earth offered an alliance. A new order, not ruled by fear, but by unity. A single final message was broadcast across the stars. The last transmission. A hologram of Admiral Cassandra Drake appeared before the remaining galactic leaders. She looked at them, not with hatred, not with arrogance, but with cold, absolute control. "This war is over," she said. "We could have destroyed you. We didn't. But understand this, attack Earth again, and there will be no mercy." The message was clear. Earth had won. And now, the galaxy belonged to humanity. The fall of the Galactic Order. The war was over. Earth had won. The Galactic Council had crumbled, its warlords hunted and eliminated. But even in the face of absolute defeat, the galaxy refused to accept the new reality. For centuries, the Council had ruled with iron authority, dictating the laws of war, trade, and expansion. Now, the power vacuum left behind threatened to throw the galaxy into chaos. But chaos was not in humanity's plans. Humanity had one final move to make: to reshape the galaxy in its image. The Galactic Uprising. With the Council gone, dozens of factions rushed to claim power. Former allies of the Council, believing Earth was weakened from the war, saw an opportunity. The Sarkan Dominion, a brutal reptilian empire, declared themselves the new rulers of the galaxy. The Korak Swarm, an insectoid hive mind, launched invasions into the newly freed territories. Even the merchant guilds, once neutral, began arming themselves, preparing for the new galactic war. They thought Earth would step back. They thought humanity would celebrate their victory and leave the galaxy to its own devices. They were wrong. The Abyss arrives. Above the capital world of the Sarkan Dominion, a fleet of warships gathered, preparing to seize control. Then, the sky turned black. Every star seemed to vanish, every light flickered, because something massive had arrived. The UNS Abyss. The Titan-class supercarrier cast a shadow over the entire planet, its main weapons already primed. Inside, Admiral Cassandra Drake stood before her crew. "Send a message," she said. Her officer nodded, activating the transmission. The Sarkan warlords appeared on screen, but their arrogance vanished the moment they saw her. "This is not a war," Drake said. "This is your first and final warning." She leaned in. "You have two choices: fall in line or fall into oblivion." The warlords hesitated. Then one of their moons exploded. Drake never blinked. "That was a demonstration," she said calmly. "The next one will be your homeworld." The Sarkans surrendered within the hour. The end of the Korak Swarm. The Korak Swarm, a race of genetically engineered war beasts, believed they were above fear. They had survived planetary-level extinctions. They had thrived in nuclear wastelands. They had never bowed to anyone, until Earth introduced them to fire. Not just any fire. Atmospheric disruptor bombs. A single detonation turned their largest hive world into a storm of flame. Billions of Korak warriors burned alive. No screams. No mercy. Just pure, engineered destruction. The survivors. They sent a desperate transmission. "We surrender." Earth didn't respond. They waited. For 3 full days, the Korak sat in terror, believing that their entire species had been deemed unworthy to exist. Then finally, a message came. A simple sentence: "Serve or die." The Korak chose to serve. The Council's greatest lie exposed. As Earth tightened its grip, Its final move was not made with weapons, but with information. For centuries, the Galactic Council had spread the same lie. That humans were weak, that Earth was primitive, that humanity was lucky to exist at all. But now, Earth controlled the galaxy's archives, and they unlocked the truth. The Galactic Council had known about Earth's potential for thousands of years. They had actively suppressed humanity's growth. Every attempt to reach the stars, sabotage, every diplomatic offer, rejected, every war fought, rigged against them. The Council had done everything in its power to ensure humanity would never rise. And they failed. Earth broadcasted this truth across every known system. The galaxy erupted into shock and rage. Millions of species realized they had been lied to, manipulated, controlled. And now, they looked to humanity as their new leaders, not because they feared them, but because Earth had won against impossible odds. Earth had defied an empire that had existed for 10,000 years. Earth had proven it was stronger than anything the galaxy had ever known. And in that moment, the entire universe understood one undeniable fact. Humanity was inevitable. The birth of the Terran Dominion. A year after the war, a historic event took place. The formation of the Terran Dominion, the first galactic government led by humans. Species from all across the stars pledged loyalty. Earth didn't demand submission. They offered a new future. A future of strength, of unity, of survival. And every being in the galaxy knew this was just the beginning. Because Earth had already set its sights on the next frontier. The unexplored dark space beyond the galactic core. The unknown. The true final battleground. And whatever waited in the void would soon learn the name of humanity. A new galactic order. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had risen. The Galactic Council was gone, its remnants either erased from existence or kneeling before Earth's new order. The Terran Dominion had taken its place, not through conquest, but through undeniable power. But humanity had never been content with just victory. They wanted the unknown. They'd wanted what lay beyond. And the stars were about to bear witness to something new. The final transmission. The galaxy had seen wars. It had seen empires rise and fall. But it had never seen what was coming. From the heart of Earth's new capital, a final transmission was broadcast to every known species. A woman appeared on screen. Admiral Cassandra Drake. No threats. No demands. Just a simple statement. The galaxy was built on lies. You were ruled by those who feared progress, feared the future, feared change. That era is over. She took a step forward, her gaze sharp, unyielding. We are not your rulers. We are your future. We do not ask for your loyalty. We ask only that you survive. The message cut out, and the universe stood still. The Beyond Initiative, humanity's next step. Earth had conquered the stars, but the stars were not enough. For centuries, the edge of the galaxy had been untouched. A vast expanse of dark space, uncharted, unexplored, filled with mysteries, horrors, and perhaps something older than the Council itself. The Beyond Initiative was formed. A fleet unlike anything ever seen before was assembled, not for war, but for discovery. And so, the largest fleet in human history, a fleet of thousands of warships, colony vessels, science cruisers, and dreadnoughts, set out into the unknown, to find whatever was waiting, to see what lay beyond the void, to claim it, to tame it, or to destroy it. The Galactic Watchers stir. Unknown to the new Terran Dominion, something else was watching. Something older than the Galactic Council. Something that had once ruled the stars, before even the first council members had been born. They had slept for thousands of years, waiting for the right moment to return. And now, the arrival of humanity had awakened them. From the depths of dark space, in a place beyond the edge of the galactic map, an ancient machine flickered to life. A single word was transmitted. A word that had not been spoken in 10,000 years. A word that sent shivers through the universe, through the hidden watchers in deep space, through the beings who had once ruled and lost everything. A single, terrifying word. Awaken. And deep in the void, something moved. Epilogue. The last signal. The Beyond fleet had traveled farther than any human had ever gone. Beyond known space. Beyond the old limits of the Council's empire. Beyond anything recorded in history. But then, one of their ships, the UNS Pioneer, vanished. No distress signal. No explosion. Just gone. Then, a transmission came through. A single, garbled message. A whisper of something massive, ancient, alive. And a last word spoken by the Pioneer's captain before the signal was cut. We are not alone.